Hello YouTube friends. Now that's a greeting you're more likely to hear on the YouTube channel The Last Homely House, which is where I do quilting and crafts and all sorts of more indoor kind of activities. But I want to welcome you to The Last Homely Garden, because for a long time now I've wanted to make video about all the projects I'm doing in the garden, but there's never really an opportunity to post them onto my YouTube channel. I'll let you into a secret. The YouTube algorithm doesn't like it when you stop doing the things that you are used to doing, that you're known for. And so those videos get very, very few views. So lately I've been posting all my gardening content on my Patreon channel. I make a diary for the patrons every month, and a lot of that is garden. I do a series I call One More, and they're often in the garden too. Before we go any further, let me just explain that I live in the middle of the countryside, but I do live near a road that at the weekend, and today's a weekend, can be quite busy, and motorbikes really love to come thundering along, going from here to there. So even though this is the most beautiful place to live, there are downsides to everywhere, aren't there? And I'll be definitely talking about some of those as this channel, if that's what it becomes, unfolds. So I'm not going to be making regular videos here, not at all, but there are some things I'm doing in the garden that I really want to talk about. So many interesting things happening in the garden. For the past couple of years I've had help in the garden. I simply can't do all the things that you need to do in a big garden like this one on my own. And I've got really, really excellent help. One day a week, for a few hours in the morning, my garden team come, and they've managed to do all sorts of really amazing things. And that's what I want to talk about. I want to talk about the... Sorry, this one's a bit tricky. I'm potting on cabbages at the moment, so just let's take a bit of soil out of that. So I'm just potting these cabbages on because they were getting a little bit pot bound. Nope, that won't work. Let's put it in. So if you're potting anything on, hold it by its true leaves, not its seed leaves, but its true leaves, and not its stalk. And now I'm just going to backfill that. That might work if I do that. Anyway, I want to tell you a little bit about my garden. There now, that one's all right now. I live in Northumberland in the north of England, so quite far north. Next stop Scotland. I live in zone 8 if you're interested in gardening zones. I'm also 750 feet above sea level here, and perhaps one of the biggest challenges for this garden, I live beside an artificial dam, which is very beautiful, but it means that my house and garden is actually below the level of the water, which can be a little bit scary when you think about it too much. But it does mean all those things. I've got a westerly wind that blows at this elevation, but it means that the ground is cold often and wet, and the growing season's quite short. But that doesn't mean that you can't grow some spectacular things. And there are a lot of projects that we're doing in the garden, the gardeners and I. Whenever I say we, I mean Adam and Aaron, my gardening team, who you'll probably be meeting in these videos. At the beginning of this year, Adam and I did in January, we walked around the whole garden and we did a full plan on what we want to do this year in the garden. And that plan included planting a lot of trees. So the area in front of my house is very overgrown. Lots of trees, lots of weeds, lots of brambles, lots of reeds because it's so wet. It's really damp and wild. It's the area I call the front woods because it's in the front of my house and it's woods. And it has loads of wildlife in it, but it also has a resident deer, which you might think is quite nice, but not when it jumps into your garden at first light and eats everything above ground, which is what it did last year. And so we have that to contend with. I always think gardening is a bit like warfare. There's so many things that you're having to protect your plants against. It's actually a miracle that you actually get anything at all. But one of the biggest things we have to do is protect from the deer. And so in this introduction to the Last Homely Garden, I want to tell you about some of the things that will be coming up in this channel. Now, don't look for videos regularly or often, but just whenever I want to talk about what's going on in the garden, and whenever there's a new project or some new planting going on, then I'll make a video like this about it and pop it out on onto YouTube. And so if you've come here from the Last Homely House, all of that content's still going to be going on. I'm still going to be making craft videos. I'm still going to be doing all of that stuff that I love to do. I love doing all of that. But this year particularly, I'm really also loving being in the garden. So just some highlights for me. I love to feed the wild birds. And I've got different kinds of seed mixes that I feed them, so I attract different kinds of birds. And it's an absolute joy to sit on my little bench by the back door with my binoculars and watch the birds on the bird feeders. There's so many. It's just wonderful. I put lots of bird boxes around in the front woods and hoping that, birds might be interested in settling in them. And also I really enjoy beekeeping. It's something that my father used to do, and I just used to tag along and help him when I was a child. But now I've got a real love and interest in beekeeping. It's a very physical thing if you're lifting big heavy boxes full of frames of honey and frames of bees. And so I've invested in a horizontal hive where the bees build sideways and the lid is really easy for me to lift. I won't get much honey, but it's really not about honey for me. I just like having pollinators in the garden, and I love seeing the bees coming in and out of the hives. And if I get a bit of honey, all to the better. That's really brilliant. So the projects that I want to be talking about with you and showing you as the year unfolds is what's happening in the hen run garden, which is just off to one side of me here. Now, I kept hens for years and years and years. And but interestingly, I'm not sure many people knew this, but I don't actually eat eggs. I kept hens because they're such interesting things to keep. I really, really enjoy. Hens are very funny things, really strange, little prehistoric creatures. Anyway, I kept hens for many years, but a couple of years ago when I got pretty unwell and couldn't look after them properly by carrying their food and all of that, I gave all the hens to Adam, my gardener, and he's got them now. And that's great, but it did mean then that we had a hen shed that was falling to pieces. And so at the beginning of this year, the gardening team took it down. And so that area there where the hens used to live, the hen run, is now going to be my allotment garden. It's surrounded by a 6-foot fence. And so we're hoping that it might be proof against the deer. We hope so. So far we've just planted a few things out there because it's just early in the year yet. So the hen-run garden then is something that I'm hoping over time will develop into a full-scale allotment with all the things that the deer like to eat, which is the Swiss chard and kale and purple sprouting broccoli, beetroot, lettuce, carrots, all the things that the deer absolutely decimated last year. Also all my sweet peas, broad beans, runner beans, all those things. We're going to be able to plant them, Aaron and Adam and I, in the hen-run garden. Which then means that we've got quite a bit of garden that we can devote to flowers. And so we've got some wildflowers growing. We're hoping for good things from them. We've got plans to plant up a lot of flowers in the front garden. I think of my garden, it's big, but I think of it as being like rooms, several different areas. And so the front garden is more like the sitting room, you know, where all the beautiful flowers are, and it's very pretty, and the birds are there, and my beautiful new silver birch tree. But then there's the area that I call the pavilion, which is something that I made a number of years ago. I had some help to make this area here. And this gets a lot of use for family gatherings, and in the sunshine I like to bring my sewing machine outside and sew outdoors, or just sit and hand sew in the bath seat. So the pavilion's a really wonderful thing, and from there I can see the bees buzzing in and out. So there's that lovely area there. And then there's the vegetable raised beds here outside of the polytunnel. And in there I've got potatoes and onions this year, and they're just starting to come, and they're covered over with horticultural fleece just to keep them happy for now. So they're just starting to grow, and that's where the bees are. But then come through the gate and into the front woods, and this is where the area is really, really wet. You can be walking along, and your Wellington boots are, you know, up to their ankles in water in some places. But the thing that we did this spring, early spring, late winter, early spring, we planted nearly 200 trees, and so they're all snug in their tree guards. Guarding them against being eaten by deer. I don't get rabbits here. I haven't seen a rabbit here for many, many years. The odd hedgehog, but no rabbits, but definitely the deer. So they've got proper guards on to protect them against being eaten. And I like to look down the tubes every now and then to see how they're doing. It'll be a long while before they pop out above these tubes. It's a very patient game planting trees, small trees, because when I say we planted that number of trees, they were only about 12 inches high, 18 inches at the absolute most. So they're going to be next generation trees. But I'm not short of trees. I love my trees. So what I want to say about this channel then is, for the people who watch the Last Homely House channel, sometimes say to me, oh, what's happening in the garden, Kate? Take us out into the garden. And so I want to separate those two things out, and this channel is going to be where I can talk all about why I'm planting these in these little biodegradable pots. I can talk about the bees, I can talk about Eileen, my beautiful goose. I'll be able to show you all the things that are happening in the Last Homely House garden, and I'm quite excited about it. So I would say subscribe and give this a like if you've enjoyed it, because this is a brand new channel with no subscribers and no watch hours at all. And so we'll see if this channel grows. The Last Homely House channel is doing beautifully, and I'm never going to abandon that. I really love making content for that. Patreon, I make content for patrons every week. We make a video, Anna and I. Anna's my daughter-in-law, she works with me. Rita's my other daughter-in-law, she also works with me. And so it's very much a family involvement here in the Last Homely House, and the same at the Last Homely Garden as well. Because when people come and help me in the garden, they become family too. So Adam and Aaron, it's an absolute delight when they come on a Tuesday to get all the new things and all the new plans done for the garden. So do subscribe. It's just that little notifications thing down there, and put the bell on so that you'll be notified when I post, because I'm not going to be posting to a regular schedule. I'm just going to be making these videos when there's something interesting to talk about in the garden. And so the YouTube channel's got its regular schedule over at The Last Homely House, but this one won't have, not for a while, or ever. So I'm going to carry on pricking out these cabbages, because I planted way too many. Do you do that? Do you open a packet of seeds and you look at them in your hand and they look like, well, there's not very much there, but there's actually 200, and you plant the lot? I always do. I do it every year, and every year I say, no, just do 12, Kate, and put the rest of them away. It never happens. So I've always got an abundance of, and then they all grow and they end up looking like this, and you're in a mess because you've got to prick them out. There's lots I want to talk about on this channel. I want to talk about compost, the importance of composting and how to make really, really great compost. A lot of the things that I do are inspired by growing up with my dad, because he was the most phenomenal gardener. He was such a good gardener, and his compost, it was unbelievably good. He could grow pretty much anything. I always used to say that if he stuck a pencil in the ground, it would grow a pencil tree. And so a lot of my love of gardening and my desire to do gardening has come from him. And so he'd be proud of me. He probably wouldn't agree with all the things I do. He wasn't an organic gardener, and he uses a lot of chemicals and pesticides and things, which I don't do. But he's always there helping me by looking over my shoulder and telling me just how far apart to plant these cabbages. So I'm going to crack on here then. Pop these on, and I will see you soon with something else.